So 2021 is over, or at least it should be when this video is uploaded, and that means everyone and their gran is making an end of year list. Well, not wanting to miss out, I've decided to take a look at my favourite hidden video game details of 2021. Now, this should really go without saying, but all of these details would have featured on my channel in some form or another in 2021. I mean, asking me to ignore the details I've already used this year wouldn't really leave me a lot to cover now, would it? It's like asking a game reviewer to name their favourite games of 2021, but only using games they haven't reviewed. Don't worry though, normal videos will resume in 2022. In fact, I've spent the Christmas break recording loads of Easter eggs and hidden details, so we can start the year with a bang. Anyway, now that I've addressed the elephant in the room, let's get started. So to begin with, let's head all the way back to February and episode 25 of our hidden video game detail series. The month prior had seen the excellent Hitman 3 release, and with it came the usual boatload of Easter eggs and secrets for us to find. Well, ignoring the excellent Easter eggs, for today's video at least, the detail I wanted to highlight can be seen whenever there is a wet floor. Now usually when there's been a spill on a floor in Hitman 3, a slippery when wet sign would have been placed down to make sure that people avoid the wet patch. This does work, people won't walk over the area as long as the sign is there. However, if you remove the sign, this will happen. So without the warning, NPCs will be unaware of the slippery hazard and fall on their bums. It's not only a funny detail, but also a pretty handy one. Next up is the equally great Little Nightmares 2, which released in February, though didn't actually feature on the channel until episode 28 of the Hidden Detail series that was uploaded at the beginning of March. In Little Nightmares 2, you take on the role of Mono, who, with the help of Six, the protagonist from the first game, has to make their way through the dark and twisted world of Pale City. Now, Pale City may be scary, but at least you don't have to tackle its horrors alone, and if you ever feel like you need a break, you can always stop and chat with Six. Okay, so she's not much of a talker, but it's better than nothing. Well, if you decide to have one of these riveting conversations when near an enemy, it will sound like this. So just when you thought that Six couldn't get any less chattier, when you're near an enemy, she actually tells you to shut up. I mean, she does have a point. There is a giant man with an axe nearby, so it's probably best to keep it down. Right, it's time to fast forward a little bit now to May, where in Hidden Video Game Details episode 35, we featured Resident Evil Village. For those of you who care, Resident Evil Village is my personal game of the year. I love the direction the series has taken since Resi 7, and Village was basically more of that, which was always going to make me happy. Now, we did make an entire video dedicated to Resident Evil Village, but of course there was something I missed, and that something was one of my favourite details of 2021. The Duke was Resident Evil Village's merchant. His origins were unclear, but he sold you stuff so you didn't question where his loyalties lie. However, if you are suspicious of the Duke, you can try to take shots at him, though you can't actually aim at him, the game won't allow it. Still, let's see how the Duke reacts to a couple of warning shots and some small explosives.
A lovely weapon, sir. Do be careful not to waste your ammunition. What are you doing? My, that's a lot of destructive power.
So the Duke won't be too fazed by your attempts to kill him, even complimenting your gun. What can I say? In a game full of horrors, the Duke is a ray of sunshine. Up next is a detail from episode 41 of the Detail series, and it's a detail from a game that I wouldn't have played if it wasn't for people suggesting I checked out this particular detail. Going Under is a dungeon crawler that takes place inside the walls of an ambitious tech startup. The dungeons that you crawl are actually the offices of the failed startups that came before, with each dungeon having its own unique theme. It's one of those games that once you start playing, you kind of can't stop, which is usually the sign of a good game. Now, the detail from Going Under is perhaps the most unique detail in this entire video, simply because I can't recall seeing anything like it in any video game ever. If you stand close to a wall and position the camera correctly, you can see this. So inside the head of your character is a brain that is wearing a crown with a smile on its face. A little later in the game, things at the company your character works for take a turn for the worse, which will make the brain unhappy. As I said, I honestly can't think of any other game that knows you're going to clip inside of your character, so actually gives them a brain. The next detail to warrant our attention can be found in episode 42 that was uploaded right at the end of June. It was around this time that the Resident Evil pack was released for Dead by Daylight, and as a huge Resident Evil fan, I was more than a little excited. Adding 2 new survivors in the form of series favourites Jill Valentine and Leon Kennedy, the DLC also let you play as the legendary Nemesis from Resident Evil 3. Now, it would have been a huge missed opportunity if the Nemesis didn't recognise his Nemesis from Resident Evil 3, that of course being Jill Valentine, so I'm very happy to report that he does. So here is how the Nemesis grabs a survivor that he doesn't recognise from a hiding spot. And here is how he grabs Jill. So the Nemesis will growl his famous Star's voice line that he said in the original Resident Evil 3. It's a great bit of fan service. Up next is episode 43, which was uploaded in the middle of August and featured big hitters like Apex Legends, Batman Arkham City and Grand Theft Auto 5. The detail that warrants a mention here though is from indie game Death's Door. Releasing in July, Death's Door is an action-adventure game that was originally released for PC and Xbox before making its way to other consoles in November. It's a game that's art style would have you believing that everything is super serious. But you know what they say, looks can be deceiving. Dotted around the world of Death's Door are signs that provide helpful hints and tips. Well, if you attack one of these signs, they won't be helpful anymore. So not only will the sign be chopped in half in gameplay, but when you try to read the sign, the message too will be cut in half. It's a really clever detail from a really good game. Next up is a detail from episode 44 and the excellent Chivalry 2. Now admittedly, I haven't played much Chivalry 2 since those first couple of limb chopping months, but what a couple of months they were. Now despite the blood, gore and limb loss, Chivalry 2 is actually a pretty funny game. Some of the funniest moments in Chivalry 2 can be heard when shouting across the battlefield at your teammates.
Are you trying to tickle me? I've done things that you mortals cannot conceive. Quick, somebody paint my portrait.
Well, something that may raise a smile is the ability to pick up a chicken and carry them into battle with you. Though if you try speaking to your team whilst holding a chicken, the regular voice options will be swapped with chicken gibberish. Now, this is admittedly funny, but if I saw a sword-wielding man running at me with a chicken in his hand shouting random words, I'd be pretty intimidated. So the final game to warrant a mention in our best of 2021 details countdown is Far Cry 6. Originally having a video all to itself, Far Cry 6 was one of those games that seemed to keep on giving when it came to Easter eggs and details, having first featured in the Hidden Detail series in episode 57. Well, the first detail of note from Far Cry 6 can actually be found in episode 59. One of the coolest details in Far Cry 6 is having your character sing along to the car radio. What's even cooler than that is what happens when you turn the radio off mid-sing-along.
I don't really wanna fight anymore. I don't really wanna think anymore.
So your character won't immediately stop singing, instead they'll finish their line before realising you did them dirty. The other detail from Far Cry 6 comes from episode 63 and features everyone's favourite wheelchair-bound puppy. Now when it comes to dogs, Chorizo is about as cute as it gets, though there is something that you can do to make him even cuter. If you aim your gun at Chorizo, there is a chance that he will do this. So Chorizo will play dead. As I said, this just makes him that little bit cuter. So that's it. Those are some of the best hidden details in video games from 2021. I just want to take this chance to say a huge thank you to any of you who have watched my videos in the last year. You've allowed me to make YouTube my job, and because of that, I'm able to pick my children up from school now, something that may seem small to many, but means a whole lot to me. Here's to an even better 2022 and even more video game Easter eggs and hidden details. Thank you all for everything, and I'll speak to you all soon.